How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the big thing, Capes and Cowls. We got a lot to talk about, man. Loki, episode 3, season 2. Well, look, apparently this panel was in the minority. Everybody loved episode 2. We didn't, but we loved this one. At least I think. I loved this one. I don't want to speak for the guys just yet, but I think that they loved this one. Matthew Vaughn has been doing a lot of talking. He's been talking about Kick-Ass, doing a reboot of Kick-Ass and where that goes. But he also talked to our buddy Josh Horowitz about potentially him directing in the DCU, but his take and his pitch on Superman. So we'll talk about that also. There's some renewals going on in this joint. Looks like Gen V is getting a season 2, and that's amazing. I haven't seen one episode, but I will. And then the other thing is Invincible. Season 2 is coming out. Well, they already said season 3 is coming out. So we got that and more. And there's more stuff that we'll come up with today on the show. But that's what I got for you. If you haven't already done it, man, we are 4,000 away. 4,000 away from 100,000. And if you hit that button, you can help us get there. So show a little class. Hit the button. Let's do it. It is a big thing. It's me and Winston and Coy. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Capes and Cowls. Big thing. Returning from New York, Coy Jandreau, Winston A. Marshall. The gentlemen are back in town. How was your trip overall?
One of the best I've ever had, man. I had more pizza this trip than I've ever consumed in my life because I miss it. I've missed it more, so I made it a focus for the first time and bookended it with Prince Street, and both times were the best Prince Street I'd ever had. And I don't know, the rain was nice. It was just good to be in weather.
It was good. I was also in New York
but
at the same time, but not at con.
How was your trip?
It was great. It was amazing, which is so funny because I was sitting at a family dinner, and they're like, "How come you're not at the thing?" It was initially the goal was to be there. It was to be there because Katie was going to do a show, and then with the strike still going on and everything too, we're like, I don't know. Plus the fact we've had one episode that has aired with Bryce Dallas Howard.
It's hard to maintain pace when
We've only aired one?
One with a guest. We've done the other ones have been just her and I. So we have tons of guests in the can. But we haven't done it. So what was the point?
Jesus.
So but I also had a lot of pizza when I was there. Certain places. And speaking of pizza, before we do that, Winston A. Marshall. Winston.
Did you see them this week?
Yeah. No,
Which nights?
No, just Saturday.
Where were they?
They were at
Palladium.
I love
Palladium.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you have no idea who we're talking.
Run the Jewels.
Oh, you know Run the Jewels.
Don't mess with me when it comes to hip hop, man. Today I was or the other day, old school too. And those guys are from New York. Show a little. When I was back at renting a car, these guys were these young. They must have been there early, probably your age or younger, right? They were maybe 30. Working at this Hertz rental, and I start talking about this is old school, and I go. Let me stop you right there. I go, old school to me is Slick Rick and Tribe, and they go, all right.
When the scripts were written.
I know.
It was cool to be in New York. I listened to only New York-based hip-hop while I was there to get in the space. Because I'm usually a West Coast hip-hop guy, but in New York, I definitely feel more connected to Nas and Jay-Z and Wu-Tang. And I listen to a lot of Wu-Tang here, but I'd never been to Staten Island and listen to Wu-Tang. I'd been.
Did you go to Staten Island?
Yeah.
Oh,
I just wanted to expand, to do Wu-Tang. I wanted to, because I got way more into Wu-Tang in the last 2 years. So I wanted to go through those areas and listen to it in the space. Because when I was listening to Wu-Tang, I was a kid in high school, and then now that I've rediscovered them, I wanted to put it together, and it was such a different experience of being in New York that way.
Did you hit any pizza shops in Staten Island?
No, I didn't find any that called to me. I didn't know.
You should.
I didn't know better.
All right. So here's the other thing too. We'll get into it as well too. The Patreon is going well. Winston, you're at. So what I want to tell people this, because people are like, oh, you guys are at 600 already, and Winston's like, what? Not at 600 yet. We're almost 400, because what Patreon started doing, which I think is cool, is you can follow people on Patreon but not be paid members.
So those are followers.
Those are followers. So the paid members is what's going to get people to be able to. We're going to be able to pay Winston to go. So so we're at around close to 400 for that. But Mike Kalinowski also has one now too. At 600, Mike's going to do a 5-minute stand-up set.
Holy!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So when we get to 600 patrons, that's what we're going to do. But
that could happen before Like
that could happen.
Yeah,
but
at the end of the year.
But as far as the pizza stuff goes, we're gonna, as you guys saw, we're gonna start doing. Frank Janish and I did like 2 pizza reviews, and I say this, I showed you. When it comes to One Bite Pizza and did what Dave Portnoy does, I watch a lot. I think he has changed the pizza business.
Oh, yeah, I
I
totally
think
agree.
he has
Small businesses especially.
Oh, he has elevated. So what was so silly, and I talked about this on the live stream yesterday. We get people like, wait a minute, you can't review pizza because Dave Portnoy reviews pizza. Then I want you to go into a time machine, and I want you to tell anybody that reviewed movies on YouTube after 2008 that they're not allowed to do it because Mark Ellis and I did it first. So dumb. However,
if that's the case, shit, you need to go tell Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence. None of them can do stand up because Richard Pryor did
it first. It's like
I thought they all had pizza reviews for like half a second. I was like, do you tell me where to find a Dave Chappelle pizza
right?
review?
No, but but reviewing stuff and like the other thing. Speaking of Barstool, they started doing they did their trivia show. Jeff Lowe, who created that show, was a major Schmodown fan. Loves what he's doing. I have the DMs to prove it. And he came up with a show, and they made competitive trivia 2 years after the Schmodown. Is he not allowed to do it? Of course he's allowed to do it. He did his own style. That's the thing.
It just has to be your own thing.
Yeah, if you're doing like a decimal, if you call it, One Bite Every Knows Rules and do a decimal point after saying
we're
it,
doing, we're doing A, B, C, D.
Very different.
And it's like, and that's the thing is, it's just like, it's such small-minded thinking of like, well, someone said like, no, don't do pizza reviews. We don't need you to be a Portnoy clone. That's dumb.
Yeah, congratulations to Portnoy for having such a market that he seemingly has cornered it.
And
But
no
at the
one's
same time,
touching it.
No, but that's the thing is like
That's not what I'm doing. And I'm doing it because I want to show people. Said, where do you go to do LA pizza spots?
And I would like to know more about LA pizza.
On top of the fact that you've been slobbing the knob of pizza since I've
Ever.
met you. That's
True.
all you
That's
talk about. You talk about like 3 things.
That's it.
This tree that you can never win a war against.
And we'll do that
My
too.
battle.
Your baby girl who was apparently a mafioso.
Which ties
And
directly into the pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things you talk.
That's
You don't
all
even
right.
talk about movies. That's all a veiled fucking just
know.
like
It's true.
whatever, just allegory.
He
for
makes the
pizza.
thumbnail about
Can
movies.
I
He
play
brings
you
them in.
guys something because you curse and I'll probably do it to you, but can I show you what I did to Mike Kalinowski yesterday? Oh my God! So I'm gonna play this. So this is I told Mike because Mike was on the show the other day, and I told Mike that he could curse.
Oh wow! It's gonna tie directly into
And
his 5 minutes.
So this is what I
hate
did.
it? No, but that was your thing, and everyone
you
thinks
hate everything.
everyone thinks I hate it.
You
Come
hate
on,
everything.
give me a fucking break.
You
It was
you can-
fine.
You can curse on this.
It was fine. I could curse in this show.
this one.
It was.
Good.
I spent a day.
Fantastic.
He has no idea that I did it.
No, but that was your thing, and everyone
you
thinks
hate everything.
everyone thinks I hate it.
You
Come
hate
on,
everything.
give me a fucking break.
You
It
hate-
was
you can-
fine.
you can curse on this
It
one.
was fine. I could curse in this show.
this one.
It was.
He's really good at Walmarting himself. That like censoring was solid.
I do that to him maybe 7 times during the show.
Well, see,
He has
I
no idea. He has no idea.
And that's probably because like editing is grueling, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that was exciting for you to
I
go
was
find the
laughing
moments
my
to do.
face off because every time he did
Just
it,
give yourself a
because
gift.
initially I was going to let him curse, and I was like, no, you know, what'd be funny, and I found a donkey sound.
He just
And
anytime.
I just kept putting donkeys on there, and a couple times it probably did actually. He probably did slip out and curse, which was one time where I go, because every time, even if he said shit, I was like, I would do it, but I go, what is that shit? And then he says it, and I donkey it
Just
out.
his.
Anyway, so we're going to be doing a lot of new stuff on the channel. If you can go patreon.com/thebigthing show, and the reason I bring it up with pizzas is that if it becomes popular on the channel and you do like it, then Frank and I will probably go to New York, Chicago, Arizona, all these different places that we want to go to try some of the pizza out there. And then we hope that you can that you support it. I was surprised that when I put the poll, like 78% said that they would be interested in watching out of like 1,500 people.
That's not bad.
No,
Yeah,
pretty
it's
good.
attention.
I'm getting old. You got a coaster? I feel guilty just putting this on this nice ass table. That'll work.
There it is.
All right.
Mail.
Here you go. Let's get into it. Loki, season 2, episode 3. It landed last night, everybody, and it was one of the better episodes so far because why I enjoyed it is I said, oh, this is what this story is about. And they also, the question of what kind of role will Jonathan Majors have? Will they kind of bury him with all the stuff, legal problems he's having? The answer is a resounding no. They are telling the story that they need to tell. And I think that it was a great episode. and it really portrayed. It showed a lot of He Who Remains, of his overall plan. It showed it. Man, that little clock is a butthole.
It's great, man.
Real butthole.
She's insane.
Yeah, real butthole. So I really enjoyed it. What
She's
I will say,
thirsty. She a pick-me girl.
She really is.
My God.
Are you guys surprised though with how much? I mean, God bless them, but I was shocked how many people did not agree with us last week.
I was surprised too.
Episode 2.
Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
There is a sense of if you like a show, you like a show that I think was part of it. I also think there's a sense of like this is better than a lot of what we gotten. So I think I think that there's also anytime you say anything is good or bad on the internet, you don't see the people agreeing with you because they're quieter. It's the people that are like rah, rattle the cage. So it's surprised.
To be fair, there were a lot of people in the comments though were not.
They weren't angry. No. But I'm saying
just,
it's more likely that someone's going to say something. Like if I don't like something and I'm talking to someone that does like it, I'm more likely to have more points.
Sure.
It does take, especially in this world that we're in, that we live in a society that like at this point, people are so reflexive. He's right. It's not the people that love stuff that are either going to write you a dissertation or going to speak up more often. They go, cool, Kristian agrees with me. They move on. If you're like episode 2 sucked for me,
politely or impolitely, it's more likely you'll see
right because they want to tell you what they.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed the conversation that most people were like, there was.
I'm sure they were.
There was one guy that was. People don't realize this. This is what I'm going to tell you on this channel. Yes, we are trying to get to 100,000, but I am picky with who lives here in the community. I love when people have like there were so many. I'd say 90% of you were out there last week saying, "Look, I don't agree with you," and I'll tell you, you made it seem like the sponsorship was so much, and I didn't think that was a problem, and I liked it because I love all that stuff. You start calling people names, you start saying things, and even little insults. I don't hesitate. I ban you. You're gone, and it's not a matter of saying like I disagree with us all day long, but have a conversation with us like you would if we were sitting across from you at a coffee shop. If you start insulting Winston or you start insulting Coy or myself and calling us names or things of that nature, you will be banned from the channel. And I've done it even like on the UAP show. It's like, no morons, the reason you're gone. I don't even read the rest of your comments. You're gone.
Someone was saying something about me?
No, I'm just saying.
Because I will go James Hella-Bob on their ass. I will find Jim Bob in Pennsylvania, Kentucky. I'll go whoop
my favorite
your
city.
ass.
Yeah, but it's just a matter. It's just the conversation. Like I love the conversation. I was happy to see how many. I mean, and I make that comment where it was so few.
Yeah,
there were so few that I had to do that to. Most people were like, and most people did not, especially me, did not agree with me on that episode and said that I blew it out of proportion with the McDonald's stuff. They were expecting so much more, and it's totally fair to them. I still think they beat you over the head with it. I think they beat you over the head with it, but people don't agree with me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said that during the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah.
I like my only issue, and now I'm curious to go back and read the comments because normally I do. I was really busy this week. It was just too much going on, and I didn't feel like we were getting to the point of what specifically. There was a lot of really great moments discussing again free will and all that, but I didn't think we were getting to the meat and potatoes of what this season was about.
And I stand by
this episode does.
The pacing being a mess was my issue. Like episode 2, I didn't mind the McDonald's, I didn't mind the Brad stuff, I didn't mind some of the things you did, but my issue was one that I shared with you. I think that thing bothered me more. So I think that's also interesting and like what is bothering people. Because like,
what'd you like about? Did you like this one?
Oh, loved it. Yeah. Okay. So I want to say like all my issues with the second episode, which were pacing, were solved in this episode.
Yeah.
I have some new issues with this episode, but it's a way better episode. Like it's just like this is much like with Age of Ultron back in the day when Disney bought Marvel. There was this shift where like using the Pinocchio song didn't bother me with Ultron because it fit the narrative.
Yeah.
Sure.
But when they made it so central to their theme, suddenly it's not like, oh, that's clever and we have the rights to it. It's this feels shoehorned. This episode I gave like I'd say an 8-9. It's almost an A. But it did have moments where I was enjoying. I loved everything Majors was doing. His choice to play a Victor Timely that way, I thought was genius because he's a showman. That's what you'd have to do to adjust to those times. It was different than Kang, but it was even more different than He Who Remains, but you could see elements of He Who Remains.
Is Victor Timely in the comics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that the way he played him is like 3 different characters. That's what I want. But my issue was by the time it got to the third act of this episode, it was so Disneyfied that there was like so much like, we're set in this setting beautifully, loved the setting, but we've got to turn that old-timey music up to an 11 to make it feel like you're on like Toad's Wild Ride in Disneyland to make sure you feel that like it's whimsical. Remember how whimsical? And I was like, I get it. We're having a whimsical time.
I think you're having a moment.
You're having a McDonald's moment.
It was the whole thing from the entire third act was bothered because the whole time it felt like a Benny Hill skit.
Okay, that's definitely so. Go
ahead and sponsor us now.
I know, right?
There it is. Brought to you by. Did it work? Did episode 2 work?
As there's a particular kind of nitpicky that I had, that I'll admit, it definitely did. I think that's your.
That might be.
Yeah,
and because I was so in until then.
That didn't bother me.
Well, especially the reason why that definitely didn't even cross my mind is from the fact when you throw in the idea that like that's the kind of how that era was with a lot of like any sort of Three Stooge-esque, because that's what it became once he started becoming that con man. It's like, oh, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, it was the setting use.
You know
I
what
just
I'm
thought
saying?
that it invalidated the tension.
Oh no! If anything, it amped it up for me, and also just kind of gave more serious like a more serious look at it when we get to those moments where Miss Minutes has lost her goddamn mind and he's literally thinking he's about to get like sort of killed by a swim fan AI. Like, you know what I mean?
That
like,
beat was incredible. The final beat of Miss Minutes and that like just wanting a body, the use of AI, the commentary that clearly they're not listening to and they watch the episodes that Disney's using AI for is really interesting while we're building towards things like that. I thought it was a really well done script, unlike the second.
Right.
I thought it was a really, and not that the second was awful, it was just moments of the script did bother me. Yeah. This episode, like nothing about the script bothered me, nothing about the pace bothered me. I thought it was a big improvement.
It to me was one of my biggest concerns, which I did see a pushback against my criticism, which I don't agree with. Was what I said in 2 was, what is this? Like where does it connect overall? And someone's like, why do you always need everything to connect? Because it's an MCU show. This isn't just something. What do you need it to connect? Because it's an MCU show where we're trying to get to an Avengers movie. I didn't come up with this format. They did.
It also connects to season 1. It's a season 2 of a show.
Right. It connects to something, and it hasn't connected to anything yet. Then this does. This connects to all of it. This tells you, calm down, dum-dum. This is everything. They found that this is that post-credit scene from Ant-Man that they showed, and this is them finding Victor Timely, and this is them saying, you know, the version that you saw in Quantumania and the other version that you saw with Hero is very different, and Jonathan Majors plays him in. I mean, it's such a different character. It's just such a different character, and the way that they kind of look at this guy and they're both fighting over this guy.
I love that Mobius the whole time is like, that's the guy.
Right,
like I really
right, yeah,
the way he played it with all the tension and build up and like almost tears in his eyes of fear of Loki is doing more to make Kang interesting than the MCU has. And then you've got the jump cut to Owen Wilson being like, wow, like it's beautiful to have. Says he wouldn't be afraid of him. He'd have no impact.
I gotta tell you, I was expecting more.
It's just genius. And like the way they're writing Owen Wilson is still some of the best I've seen since like Shanghai Noon. They're so good at the voice of
he's
the
having
best.
fun, which is, you can tell he's having fun.
Yeah, I'm so happy for this set. Like everyone on this set, I'm like, good for you guys.
Yeah, and it looks like, look, the fear that they put him in, the fact that Loki is trying to protect him in that thing. Oh, I will say my biggest criticism was the dopey guys following him around. That
wanting their money back.
Yeah,
that was the Benny Hill element I was talking about.
Okay, so that, I mean, but I thought you just meant the
music was the worst of it for me. But the whole sequence, I was like, this has gone on twice as long as.
I'm when he comes back in the room. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a bit much.
It's a bit much at the end. At the end of it, when it's just like they're knocking on the door, where are you? And like they don't send anyone around.
It just totally didn't fit the rest of the show.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Like,
but
we're talking a drop from a 9.2 to an 8.9. Like, I'm not saying this is criminal. I'm just saying I have a negative note.
You got to remember, you're doing dimension and time hopping, and anytime you've seen. You talk about how much you love Bill and Ted. Things are gonna be real different back, like chilling with
no. But what I mean is that, I think what he means is that fact that
it's just overdone.
It's okay. It's okay at first
joke.
when he shows up. When he first is, especially look, this is a black inventor on a stage. These guys are gonna be like, "What are you doing?" They're gonna treat him like crap.
I could sense it, and I was wondering how they were gonna handle it.
And
they said "boy" with a capital B. That was real.
They did, and I heard
when they said that, I was like, all right, they went there.
But because that does drive me nuts. I'll be honest with you, it drives me nuts when they don't acknowledge that stuff. The way that it's almost like they're ignoring that's what happened. They
in real life, yeah.
And they didn't do that because sometimes they'll place like and at first when and what's the main character of Oh shoot!
You got to give me more.
Any show.
So the two that are with him, the clock, and then
Miss Minutes and Raven Renslayer. Ravonna Renslayer.
So when Renslayer walks in there too, the same thing. I was like, is she not getting side-eyed? And she started to get side-eyed because it does drive me nuts when to me it's almost like they're ignoring you and just, well, no, it's okay. This is a different history in the 1800s when black women could walk around and everybody's cool. Like that's not how it was.
Yeah.
That's not how it was, and I think it's a disrespect to do it that way. So, and they've done it in a lot of different things.
That's what they teach in schools in Florida, man.
They've done it in a lot of different programs. My point was that they acknowledged it inside of this episode, and it
added tension.
It did. So, what we're talking about is the fact that you have that scene, which I thought was powerful. It worked, and then he kind of dupes him, and then when they go to find him again, he's right there, and like there's no tension. They're going to the house, but the other thing is too, if you're going to go to the house and you know the guy's running away, you have 5 guys. Why are you all coming through the front door? Go around the side and flank.
That was the cartoon element that just really the tension of the show felt like, okay, good, we're going to live in this world that could be tense.
It's like Ezra showing up with a helmet at the end of the finale. Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. If you remember when we're chasing Brad Wolf, you had the same comedic "I'm running away from you," which. Again, totally fine. I think what doesn't bother me about it is because once we get to the end of the chase, shit always gets really serious.
Oh, and it was great. I was looking for a negative.
Which is why I think it doesn't bother me. If it's like, oh, we caught you, then I probably would have been on the same side with you guys. But knowing that it was just the avenue at which
if he said it like that, I probably would have been on board.
Like, oh man, we're going to a musical. It's going to be a music.
But like,
especially with majors, he'd pull it off.
But like in 2, when they catch Brad Wolf, all of a sudden it's Loki's shadows pinning him against a wall, and I'll kill you, bro. Right. You know what I'm saying? So same thing. We're gonna get you timely, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, and then he just magics. He's like, oh, my bad. And then they run. The fact that you then remind everybody that Loki is still Loki, I don't mind it, especially when you consider in season 1 we're dealing with alligator Loki.
That's true.
And child Loki.
Well, they did it again though too in this one too what they did with Loki, which I thought was a baller move when Sylvie says the thing about gods, and he's like, we are gods.
Yeah, like, that conversation was genius.
It was great.
There's some really well-written stuff in here about like philosophy and fate and time that I'm really enjoying, and I'm really curious. I know you said episode 4 was everything, and so far like episode 1 really established like this incredible tone, and then episode 3 is spectacular as well. 2 does dip, so I'm really curious where it ends with how Disney is like, okay, 4 episodes. Like there's always that thing where they send 4 because that's a flavor, and then the 5 is like this penultimate climax. That's where we had like a lot of the crazy stuff season 1.
Yeah.
I'm super curious like what the gap is going to be.
I can tell you again, not spoiling anything, and Winston know as well. I understand why they didn't send 5.
And that's great. And that's what I'm so excited about.
5 and 6 with the screenings. I understand completely.
So I can't wait.
You'll get it immediately.
What I'm saying is like 3 brought me back. Yeah. Well, three brought me back to like, oh, we're talking one of the best, if not the best MCU show. That's what I want to say about 3. Like 3 is back to being, this reminds me of why I love season 1. Totally. And so like, I think me starting with the negative is going to make people be like, it's only negative. No, that's my only foible. 3 is back to 1 good, and thus right up there with WandaVision for me.
Yeah. It delivered. It got me back on board immediately, because I also reminds me of, that's why you do television. There's tons of my favorite shows. I've watched Sopranos and gone, I love that one.
Yeah.
And the next one is fantastic, and I'm on board. It's consistency, right?
Yeah.
It's consistency. And so far, out of the 3 that have aired, 2 out of the 3, in my opinion, have been great. And then for most people, judging by the comments last week, 3 out of 3 has been great for them. So,
which makes me happy, because I know that a lot of people have been wanting this like home run that Marvel needs again, because we said it from 8 months out, Guardians was not really phase 5.
Right.
And so I really want a home run for Marvel, because I know they're trying to restructure. We're hearing all this stuff out of that book. That book is fascinating.
We have so much to talk about. I want to make sure that I can acknowledge both 2 of our wonderful sponsors, because tweeting is a really bad habit sometimes. But you can beat bad habits with good habits, and I know how to do it. I'll tell you both about Fume, and I'm also going to tell you about AG1 to keep up with good health habits. Here you go. All right, guys. This episode is sponsored by Fume. Bad habits, man. A lot of people have bad habits, and bad habits can really kick your ass, and they can mess with your health. They really can set you back. I've seen it, been around it, and I know. And when you see this, The first thing you go, well, what is that? The first thing you should know is that's not a vape pen. It's not electronic. It's natural. That's why I'm on board in the first place. What is it then? It's a device. And it helps you quit nasty habits. And that's why I was on board right away when they reached out. At first, I'm not going to lie, I was skeptical. I didn't know. I was like, I don't know. That's not really my thing. It's like, wait a minute. You're not breathing in nasty chemicals with this. And what it is, it's it's just fresh air. It's natural air. It is flavored air. That's it. You heard me. Air. And it flavors it. It is a great way to replace nasty habits. There is no nasty chemicals, none of the stuff that creates bad habits. And that to me was like, oh, wait a minute. So you can actually turn a bad habit and you just make it a good habit because it ain't messing you up and it ain't hurting you. Because I said, wait a minute, flavored air? And I said, it just feels fresh. They sent me one of them. And I said, okay, great, cool. It's pretty well weighted. It's perfectly balanced and it's very easy to fidget with. Stopping is something that everybody puts off because it is hard. But if you switch to Fume, it is easy and it's enjoyable and it's fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has had thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use that code BIGTHING. You can get 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfume.com. Use that code BIGTHING to save an additional 10% off your order today. If you've been listening to this show, then you know that I've been drinking AG1 for about 2 years now. I started drinking it daily. I could feel a real difference in my daily health, and I got more of a pep in my step. I was moving. Sleep quality is so much better. I love it. It is a foundational nutrition supplement. It supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, immune support. And since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition. It is the best. I'm telling you. I have people now telling me that I've recommended. They love it. And they said, I started drinking AG1 and they are feeling more energetic. It feels that they're supporting their gut health. And I had somebody call, I go, well, you weren't wrong. I'm sleeping so much better now. I'm telling you, it's the best. AG1 is the supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why they've been a partner with us for so long. So if you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. drinkag1.com/bigthing. Go and check it out. All right, thank you to our friends over at both Fume and AG1. So happy that they've been on board for a bit, man. And so for people who don't know, when you sign up to our sponsors, they look at the links and they go, oh, these guys, this audience is really engaged. They got our product, they did this, and they re-up. And then when they re-up, I go, oh, hey, Coy and Winston, I can afford to have you on the show still. So
it's a win-win for everybody.
It's a win-win for everybody. So that's what happens when you do that. So please go ahead and if you're able to and you have the means to, go and sign up to one of our wonderful sponsors.
I brought 4 travel packs of AG1 to New York, and every morning waking up after no sleep, I would just open Poland Spring because I miss New York.
Yep.
Open up a Poland Spring and literally pour in a travel pack, and I'd start the day with like, okay, we got this, and it got me through, man. Poland Spring.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Could be.
But there we should move into it because let's start with the first part of that book. All right, this is comicbookmovie.com. Part of that book, Marvel Studios' new details emerge about Kevin Feige's clash with Victoria Alonso and why she was fired. This is part of this. So much of this book, but this is part of it. We talked about this book yesterday on the live stream with Brett, where they talked about the Lucasfilm and the Marvel stuff, where they were essentially kind of allegedly forced into announcing some projects prematurely. But this is another one. When Avengers Endgame was released in 2019, Marvel Studios really could do no wrong. Since then, we've seen them expand their big and small screen offerings, leading to issues with quantity over quality, and a leader, Kevin Feige, who has been stretched too thin. Many blame outside Disney. Everyone's blaming Bob Chapek for those issues, but we first learned of tensions within Marvel this year. Victoria Alonso, who was the president of Fizzle and post-production, VFX and animation production, she was fired after 16 years. There have been conflicting reports about what happened, ranging from her taking time off to promote outside projects to her anger at Disney for its stance on Florida's divisive parental rights and education bill, which is commonly dubbed "Don't Say Gay" in media reports. In the newly released MCU The Reign of Marvel Studios book, more insights are shared about the divide between Feige and his former right-hand woman. It says Alonso had broken one of Feige's cardinal rules: don't speak out publicly against the company. A source close to the matter said that later that year, Feige suggested to Alonso that she had outgrown her role at Marvel. He reportedly cautioned her to keep her head down and do the work. In early 2023, Alonso refused to act on Marvel Studios' request to remove LGBTQ pride symbols from Quantumania for foreign markets. The atmosphere at the studio was tense. The Department of Yes had said no. Esposito outsourced the VFX for work anyway, an act Alonso regarded as a betrayal. Alonso, who is a lesbian, making these moves isn't surprising, and many will agree with her taking this stance. Disney and Marvel, meanwhile, continue to insist that she breached her contract, and Alonso has since been blamed for Marvel's toxic work environment towards the VFX artist. It also sounds like she started exerting her creative control over projects, similar to what happened with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and that proved to be the straw which broke the camel's back. Chances are we'll never know the full story, but these latest insights are food for thought. It's ultimately a shame that the relationship broke down, and her actions may have played a role in the VFX artist deciding to unionize. Lot there. That's one portion. Lot there.
It's a big old book.
It's a big
I
old
haven't
book.
got it yet, but I have to. I thought it'd be one of those books where, because of our job, I'm not saying like we're more plugged in than, I'd say we're more plugged in than average, but
figured I know a lot of this
not
stuff.
so plugged
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
like, and then this is so many surprises and twists and turns. This book's really impressive because it's revealing stuff that I had no idea about.
We always said that we wanted to see this kind of stuff for Lucasfilm.
Right.
It's like, what happened there? And apparently they did leak some of that stuff, but a lot with the Marvel thing.
And it's such a backhanded book of like the age of Marvel as if it's concluded. Because I get where they're coming from, but it feels like a tell-all is usually
taking
20
shots.
years
They're
later.
down right now. They're kicking.
That's what it feels
Who
like.
wrote this?
Coy.
Yeah. Guys, I'm promoting my book, The Stuff You Didn't Know About Marvel.
You Jada Pinkett mother.
Guys, you know what? Frankly, I am Tupac.
Yeah. So
Dude, the Jada Pinkett stuff this week. Goddamn.
Oh my God.
I've never wanted to know less about someone's personal life.
I have never had something so thrust in my face.
That's what she wanted.
I had it. I let it go. I let it go.
You could.
I let it go.
You could have.
I let it go.
Oh, but yeah, it was right there. It was right
in
there.
the comments. It's fine.
No, but I
Yeah,
let
yeah.
it go. And it's
She
Chris
just wanted
Rock,
that
Chris
Thug Life
Rock already
tattoo
took
right
care
there.
of that.
Oh, man.
Chris Rock already took care of
What
that.
it's Will Smith's
Level with
response
it.
though, real
Level with
classy. Will Smith's response was great. Did you see his post?
No.
He just posted the thing that said my official statement over him sitting in a chair, and he opened his mouth and then it zooms out across the planet like. I was very proud.
Another conversation. But so you hear this though with Alonso. So what I'll say first is this: that of course she's going to take that stance as she should, with wanting to promote and everything too. I will say that I understand in the marketing side of it in certain places where they're like, look, in order for us to, and in the business side of it, whether it's the right moral decision or not, where they're coming from, whether you agree with it or not, I understand where they're coming from with it. But I also understand where she's like, why she would feel betrayed. I understand why she would be like, well, wait a minute. Why aren't you guys, I've been here for years and this is important to me. We got to, in order to make change, we got to have this fight. So, but Disney being the corporate entity that it is and representing different sides made their move. Now that's part one. Part two is I have, on a much, 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 much smaller scale, been in charge of a lot of people and been in charge of things to where it's like, and working for a company, whether it's Collider or whether it's Skybound. And if people inside of the thing that I'm working just start to do public, going after people and doing this and going after each other, it's like, talk about it first inside and have the conversation.
Brandon Hanna just causing problems.
It's true. But so I understand, and not necessarily for this particular thing, but I understand where Kevin Feige has that rule of let's talk about things first before going after it. But that is one particular circumstance that I actually think she was in the right. My personal stance. The other stuff, though, that I do think was probably led to her employment demise was I do think from all the reports, and maybe it'll come out that it's wrong, I think she leaned really heavy on those VFX artists. I think she pushed it, and not the only one, but I think she pushed pretty hard on them. And I do think she got involved too much creatively, and I don't think her creative choices were the right choice. And that's why, if that's the case, Kevin Feige's got the right to say bye-bye.
That's the whole thing. There's so many things in life. I guarantee you, probably to everybody here, we're all human. Nobody's perfect. So that means that on a job, in a relationship, whatever, you probably have some flaws that are like sitting around and maybe pissing somebody off or giving them reason to take pause, but you are bringing more positive to the table than the negative. Right. So they'll overlook it. But the minute you do something that is like really gonna cause whatever sort of rift, and I agree with you, I think that she was in the right personally. But as a company, for when people love to talk about the idea of free speech and all that, yeah, you have free speech that prevents you from getting persecuted by the government. But if a company is like, hey, this is how we stand on something, you need to fall in line or we got to have a different conversation. It is what it is. Right. And so that's a situation where I guarantee you they were probably overlooking the VFX stuff. They were probably concerned because the projects weren't hitting, but they're letting it go. And then the minute you got into a situation of like, dude, I need you to stop, and she wouldn't. And again, I think she did the right thing. That's enough. That's a wrap.
Right.
You know
the other thing though too, Coy, everything that Winston just said, I agree with. But the other thing is that, when they're also going to go, hey, wait a minute, we need to talk when your projects aren't making money.
I was going to say the timing is also like. I also think it's worth noting that a lot of people pointed fingers at her for the toxic environment VFX, which I didn't hear personally until after the firing. It wasn't a conversation I had heard from when.
So you think it could be scapegoat stuff?
Because look at the visual effects, how they're treated now. They had to unionize. Like I think that maybe a seed was planted.
Well, they
and
said
then they
said they unionized because of her.
That's what I'm saying. But it's now who do you point at? I'm acknowledging that maybe things that happened with her were the seed that grew.
Sure.
But I'm also acknowledging that. We heard about people being moved from one project before it was finished over to Wakanda Forever. We heard about things happening where these 5 properties are all at once, they're being spread thin. The stuff right now, she's not been there for like a year and a half. Right. Like I guarantee you the properties we're seeing right now that have rough visual. Quantumania couldn't have been all her because she wasn't there for the end of it. Like certain things like that.
She was there for the
end of Quantumania.
Yeah, I thought didn't she get? I thought she
got
got fired
this year.
Was it after?
Yeah,
Quantumania?
it was after.
Oh, it was this year. Okay, but the complaints about visual effects. We have been complaining. I don't know when I am. Right. Yeah. But the complaints have been going on after her. And I don't know how far along they were. I just think that for a while, people are going to be like, oh, she's the problem. And she might have been the seed of it. But I think we should also acknowledge.
There's more than
we should acknowledge that unionization is necessary to scale for any major company for people to have rights. So I just want to make sure that, like, I would hate for her legacy because she was there from Iron Man 1.
Of course.
And those visual effects are to this day incredible. And she was there for when they were treated well. I just don't want her to become the face of evil if she was not all of it.
Yeah, well, that's what, again, with these books, who knows what else comes out of it. But Marvel in general, this book, not the best timing for them. Because the other thing that Winston, right after we filmed last week, because we filmed last Tuesday. We filmed last Tuesday because I was going to New York on Wednesday. And so Winston was like, oh my God, look at this. And he sends us a report of the Daredevil stuff. And we didn't get.
We almost got on a Zoom.
I know
we almost zoomed in an extra scene for you guys behind the scenes.
Yeah,
wow.
So we talked about this with Mike and I the other day, briefly, but I want to get you guys' take on it. Is that and I saw your tweet about it, to which every time you tweet I sweat. But
is the big thing canceled because Coy said the C word again? Will I have to call my friend and stop him from career suicide?
But I actually did like your tweet and what you said this time. This time. But it was essentially what happened for people that didn't know was that Daredevil was in trouble. Daredevil was in trouble.
Yeah.
You don't understand why I'm laughing so hard.
What happened? You guess?
I just know. I We're like, every time you tweet I sweat, I was like, man, like every time a white dude walks in the store with a Confederate flag on his t-shirt, I'm just like, so what's about to happen right now?
It's just Kristian scrolling where he's like, oh no, I see his name. I see his emoji. What's going to be?
It's either just going to be like, hey, I just got, the, what was it? The general out back and I just like to ride in my car, or I'm about to get called boy.
Those Duke's boys were real nice, but the rest of them.
There's people that in our circle that when I see their tweets, they go, oh. Every time, here we go. You're like this.
But yeah, mine's like
it just depends on your mood.
Left field.
I
can't.
You could be skipping down the street, or you have a bazooka against somebody.
That's what I'm saying. Kristian he sees his entire light flash before his eyes.
But I saw. But anyway, so the tweet itself.
I wake up a memento every day. I'm like, oh, was it good?
Yeah. Well, look, the tweet itself. Look, before we even do that, we're gonna get into all this stuff. We'll talk about Daredevil. This is gonna take a longer conversation. So anyway, we were talking about Daredevil. Now, Daredevil, this is what Mike and I talked about. I want to throw it to you guys. So Daredevil was announced at was it 18 episodes or whatever it was announced at D23. They had more stuff that they were talking about, or they did a presentation at D23. And then there was all these different rumors. I got scared for Daredevil not for She-Hulk, because I thought Daredevil was fine in She-Hulk. I got scared with Kingpin in Hawkeye because Kingpin was terrible in Hawkeye. Kingpin was not the terrifying menace that he was in that Netflix series. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, they're going to definitely Disney-fy the Daredevil and not do what they did. And then word comes that they scrapped basically everything that they were doing on this series. Like, they just rewrote it, everything. So much so that Vincent D'Onofrio not only defended it on Twitter to say, hey, listen, these things happen, to where he got so frustrated with all the backlash on it, he quit social media.
What?
Oh, yeah, he quit social media.
I love him online.
He left Twitter, he left Instagram, he quit.
Wow.
Because he was just over it.
Good for him.
So take note.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So
our entire jobs weren't on that platform.
I know. So either way, this is what Mike and I thought, and I'm curious to hear if you guys agree or disagree. Did they, and this is where your tweet came in, you said, like, look, at least they did it.
Yeah.
At least they looked at it and said, hey, it ain't working.
Gives me so much hope.
I agree with you. And as opposed to be putting out, like, well, we shot it, we got to put it out. They can't afford to do that right now because their shows and movies have not been great. Is there a possibility that, was it Karen and Froggy? Or is it Froggy and what's the girl's name?
Karen.
Oh,
okay. I thought you were the actors. Yeah, Karen.
Froggy and Karen.
And Foggy. Not Froggy. That's what threw me.
Foggy. Is it Foggy and Karen? Because they were apparently in this report, they were supposed to be killed off, and that's what led to, for the first 4 episodes, Daredevil's not even in his costume. Do they bring Foggy and Karen back?
Yeah.
Do they Netflix it up? Do they finally, because I think they wanted to do this thing where they were like, no, Netflix, it's not our series. Do they say, maybe we were wrong, and maybe this is Daredevil season 3?
I mean, they recast Vanessa. So
Right.
that worries me because, not that I had, anything against the new actress, but it shows a line in the sand between the old universe and the new universe. I think it'd be smarter of them to at least tonally aim for what Netflix was. I don't know if they're going to make it a season 4. I still don't know multiversally what everything is, because they've been playing it fast and loose.
Yeah.
And either it's my mega optimistic side where it is a multiverse where we've met different universes already.
They can't
and
lean on that, though.
But that's what I'm saying. Optimistically, the only way to make all these tonal differences work is by bringing it all together, clean slating it going forward. Right now, there's too many different universe flavors. And it worked in phase 1 when it was like the Spangled flavor meets the God flavor meets the tech guy flavor. Like, all of that still felt like when they came together, it was funny to be like a guy talking about his drapes and towards a God of Thunder, all that stuff. But by the time we get to Spider-Man and he swings by the tree in Hawkeye, those don't feel like they could share a frame. So I think the issue is now not only what Winston was talking about last week with no Avengers level event to tie it all together, not to have a crescendo and all those things, but also by the time we get to the Avengers, I don't know if it's going to feel like we're experiencing one thing, because we haven't mentioned Celestials. We haven't mentioned all the big stuff. So I think what they need to do is either narrow their focus to make things more familiar, or they need to clean slate this with Secret Wars and relaunch the universe.
Winston?
So many thoughts. Yeah, I have a feeling, and that's even in the title of Born Again. The whole idea was that they were trying to kind of wipe away. You kept Charlie Cox, you kept Vincent, but you're trying to wipe away what was Netflix. Because to that point, as we saw it, if you go back and watch Netflix stuff, there are nods made to the MCU. They kept saying it was a part of it. Technically, they were just doing their own things. You'd hear about the green guy, and you'd hear about whatever. I think the only way that the Kingpin in Hawkeye makes sense is that it would have to be a different version of him. The only other way you could have done it is if you would really lean into him being like, I retired. If he had been like, I have retired from that life, I was off on an island but you messed up my ish and now I'm back. If you had done something like that, otherwise wearing Hawaiian shirts and just being like, oh, just felt off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think they took a step back. I think they genuinely looked at because there was a report that came out this past week as well that was like Marvel was confused that Quantumania didn't slap the way that it thought, because it was like, we thought we put out a banger, and critics and fans were like, what the hell was this? You know what I mean? And I think that this is the time where they're genuinely looking at something and going, okay, if we're going to get to at least the finish line of what we want to do with this set of phases, we can't have any more missteps. You've run out of runway to be able to do anything like that. And I think they really just took that moment. And considering it wasn't pressing, it wasn't coming out tomorrow.
Right.
And because you have the time, because Lord knows how long since we are back in the thick of the strike again, since the studios have decided to walk away,
dude,
you have time with the writers now to really sort out what you really want to do.
Right.
Just because I'm at the mindset now, we'll probably get out of the strike before the year is over, but nothing's being done until the new year.
Oh,
There's nothing else will be shot this year.
Well, that was the other thing, I guess, transferring over into like Deadpool was the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Because Sean Levy was talking about how that Deadpool 3, they don't even know now when it's going to come out. It'll probably definitely get pushed to July or something too, because even if I agree with you, I think that they'll probably end the strike around like the Thanksgiving area, and there'll be like 2 weeks that people can work in December.
This town doesn't film.
No.
After like if you're not from LA does this amazing thing. I'm saying sarcastically, where November 1 hits and everybody's like, it's almost Thanksgiving, and everything slows down. And then after Thanksgiving, you're like, we're a little tired, and then I can see Christmas, and then they just don't open the doors again, and then New Year's happens, and then it's February.
They literally get the itis from Thanksgiving through the New Year.
It's insane. Like senioritis in LA is a 3-month cycle, it's exhausting. That's why I miss New York.
I know people will do the they'll like scramble to like that 1 or 2 weeks in between to try to do some stuff in that November, December area, but January is probably really going to pick up. I agree. So that means that Deadpool's definitely going to get pushed for sure, and I think that's why you got a chance to retool. They're not going to put Daredevil out and when they were supposed to. That'll be pushed.
I guarantee you that because if you notice the timing of when this all happened, if I remember correctly, that news. When did that news drop?
Which one?
That we texted about. That would have been Wednesday.
Tuesday.
It was.
I think it was literally that
the
day.
Same day.
Yeah, it was that.
It was
night.
Tuesday. Yeah, you texted me that night that we should jump back on. I think it was like 2 hours after we.
Yeah, literally, it was like.
Because I'm just trying to remember when the studios walked away.
That happened like on
that was
Wednesday or Thursday.
So that would have been Wednesday. Okay, I was just gonna say just being in the thick of it and whatnot, and I'm sure that's the whole thing. It was announced Wednesday that the studios were walking away from the table again, right? I guarantee enough of that is being talked about within the various studios and the companies, and that they were already contemplating, do we start over? Like, what do we do? And the minute they're like, oh, dude, this is not going the way we thought it was going to go, they're probably like, okay, that's the last sign we needed. Screw it. We're going to start over. Like, this isn't, because again, it's one thing if it's like, because the talks were going so well that this is over last Friday, in which case then you got to have them look at the terms, have the ratification. It'd probably be over next week or something like that, right?
Right.
The minute you find out that that's not the case, they were like, no, if there was anybody having any issues with anything, just whatever, pull it, go again.
I'm curious about Echo now. Because like the big sell,
I don't think that's coming out.
That's what I'm saying. Is like the big sell in Echo was the two of them.
I think they will put it out,
but they squished it to one day, and they just released a new logo, which is a really funny way to be like, we still have this show.
They're gonna dump it all and put it out of one thing. Like they got Echo. I think they're gonna do the same thing with Echo that DC's doing with Aquaman. It's like,
all right, we made it.
Put it out. We made it. Put it out. See how it does. Maybe people, because in Echo, Daredevil and Kingpin are supposed to
show up. That's what I'm wondering though. What if they're tonally more like Kingpin? And that's my concern.
Marvel's a mess right now.
I think this is the worst they could be.
Yeah.
With how strong they were pre-pandemic, and that's what I think a lot of it is having to reshuffle. We read that article that confirmed a lot of our theories about Falcon Winter Soldier, where it was going to be people like chasing down people causing a virus that's decimating the population. They had to be like, nah, that's storyline.
Right.
I think there were a lot of things that really had this really tight plan that couldn't exist after the pandemic, and now they didn't fumble the ball as well as they had to survive, and now we're just snowballing negativity.
Yeah, and I think that I think they got a rough patch to go with for a bit. Somebody asked me on the live stream yesterday if the Marvels, because I especially after the Marvels is tracking, I think the Marvels is going to lose money now. I don't think it's going to make money anymore. I think it'll barely break even, if anything. I think it's going to be in major trouble. And I think that
it's in like a few weeks and nobody's talking about it.
I mean, they can't promote it now,
right?
So they're in major trouble with that movie. But they said, is Marvel going to be in serious trouble? Yes and no. Yes, in the fact that it's like it's going to continue on that just punch after punch after punch, and then Echo will be another one punch, and then Deadpool is their opportunity to turn it all around, because Loki right now is good, but Loki's not going to be able to carry it on its back. It's a television show. It can't, even though people are watching it, what's bizarre is the ratings are good, but I'm looking at people that normally do really, really big numbers on the Marvel shows.
Yeah, I don't see it translating to what it used to on the feedback loop.
Right, and that's important, because that's your only kind of promotion right now.
Right,
that's your only promotion. Like, I did reviews and reactions for One Piece that did 30 to 40,000. My last Loki one did 3,000.
Wow, a 10th.
Ate it.
That's
ate it. Almost so much I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. But I was like, you know what? I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know this as of we're recording this now. My reaction is up. I don't know if it did bad or good. I'm gonna guess and say I released it at a different time, so I wonder if that had anything to do with it. I'm talking to myself in the future. I have no idea.
How am I doing, Kristian?
Yeah, how am I doing? But
I mean, I'm just at this point. I'm just excited to have other mediums to like talk about stuff, like because I do think this is lasting through the year. I don't think we get to do any Oscar really promotion stuff with actors, which is going to be fascinating. It's just going to be Scorsese out talking about Killer.
You'll do. I just. By the way, Foggy is in Killers of
No way.
He doesn't say a word.
What?
He doesn't say
Silent
a word.
Eldon Henson?
He says nothing.
You know, he was the Knuckle Puck kid in Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, he was.
What?
Yeah, he was.
No, Knuckle Puck was Keenan. What are you talking about?
No,
it's Knuckle Puck time. That's Keenan's whole thing.
I know which one you mean. The guy.
The first one's
guy
he's
with
the slap shot.
Sorry. I did the wrong term. I did the wrong term.
Yeah,
I was like, I know, I can visualize it.
You are not going to erase a black man.
Do not take. In the 90s, we had just Keenan.
I used to look up to Keenan, my guy.
We only had Keenan. No, the sideways puck, the violent kid in the first one. The slap shot.
He's the one that comes with the super
shot. That's Foggy.
Yeah, Foggy's in. I noticed him in Killers. I'm like, oh, there's Foggy. And they just like pan him.
He was a day player. They're like,
I don't know if they just cut his scenes.
I'm like curious about it.
I love that.
Yeah. Good.
It's a great movie. I'll only watch it once.
3.5 hours.
That's not why.
Oh,
it's emotionally draining.
Got it. I could see that.
Very powerful movie.
Yeah.
But
The Killer's out next week. That's my most anticipated movie of the year. Nobody's
Fincher,
talking about
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's based off a French comic. There's a Fincher comic movie coming out.
Well, speaking of this, we got to do. I want to do the Invincible. I want to do the other thing before. And we'll do it quick, but I do want to, because I did the first sponsor did them a little late. So I want to tell you, I got to continue, and I want to tell you about two of our other wonderful sponsors, which is both Rocket Money, who I've talked about so many different times. You guys know it. And KAJABI. Like, KAJABI is one that you really both you guys got to pay attention to, because if you're a creator and you want to find more ways for revenue, and you don't have the big million subscriber audience, or hell, you don't have 20,000. This is a way to monetize your audience, and that's KAJABI. Let me tell you about both. For creators out there, a lot of different creators out there, and I want to tell you guys about KAJABI. I want to tell you about them right now. I'm excited to tell you about them, because if you didn't know, I think, look, I've been doing this creator thing for a long time, and what everybody strives to do is you want to be able to make enough to earn a living doing what you love. So KAJABI makes it easy, actually, to diversify your revenue. You can build your own brand. You can turn your audience into customers. Now, with the disruption of revenue streams from algorithm updates and product changes, if you're a creator and you don't use KAJABI to diversify your income beyond ad revenue and brand deals, you're leaving money on the table. And this is very true. Look, I told you, I'm planning on making a move. This is like this is my family, man. I'm everything. So this is something great. Earning a living directly from your audience is one of the most sustainable ways for creators to build a business. And you don't need a huge following to do it on KAJABI. You just don't. Creators and entrepreneurs value full ownership and control over their brand. With KAJABI, you have 100% autonomy with free customizable templates that you can make on your own, even if you're not tech savvy, and you keep what you earn. You don't have a huge audience, doesn't matter. You don't need it to make a sustainable income. There are thousands of creators on KAJABI making 6 and 7 figures with less than 50,000 followers. Try KAJABI and join the creators and entrepreneurs who have earned over $6 billion. Right now, KAJABI is offering a 30-day free trial to start your own business if you go to kajabi.com/bigthing. KAJABI.com/bigthing. Go to kajabi.com/bigthing and earn more doing what you love. Right? Have you used Rocket Money yet?
I have not.
Oh, you need it, especially now because it's out there. You're having a little girl.
I'm having a little girl,
and I'll tell you. And what it does is that whether it's the strollers, diapers, and all this stuff, it's a way to organize all of your finances. And what it's really good is like, how many times have you been on an app and you're scrolling through the app and you go, oh, I'll try that one. A free trial for 30 days. Okay. And then 4 months later, $13 a month.
Yeah, I know. I've done that.
It tells you all of your subscriptions, and it can, one button, cancel all of them. It also will tell you your credit scores. It'll tell you all this. Just today, my wife, I was like, oh, we spent X amount of dollars less a month. It told me, it's like, way to go, us. And it's been so great. I love it. It gives you updates.
I don't want to look.
It is incredible. And I love Rocket Money. And I'll tell you guys what you should do. You got to go to rocketmoney.com/thing and sign up today. You will be thanking me for it as well. All right. Thank you to our friends over at both KAJABI and for Rocket Money. Both very beneficial. And I hope that you use them. Links are in the description. I always pin it to the top. All right, so let's switch on over. Let's get to some of these other stories, which are interesting ones. All right, so Invincible, Season 3. Invincible comic creator Robert Kirkman appeared at New York Comic Con 2023 on the weekend, where he confirmed the Amazon animated series is well into production on a third season at the old Schmodown set. Speaking just a couple of weeks ahead of the show's second season premiering on Prime Video on November 3rd, Kirkman says that the finishing touches on the second season will be ongoing right up to release. However, he adds that the third season is far enough along that a bunch of casting has already taken place, and it'll include some from the Walking Dead series, which was also based on the comics. His comments are the following. Finishing touches on the last few bits of Season 2 are being done right now. Season 3 is very far along. When I talk about the actors we have for Season 2, it's a minefield. There's so many in Season 3 we have to talk about. If you think the cast expanded for 2, just wait until you hear about who we're getting in 3. That might give you an indication of how far we're going. There's just so much big stuff planned. It's possible that there may be some Walking Dead alums that could be popping up at some point. Okay. So it's funny. I got to get back into this series because I was watching. I forget what episode I'm on. I'm on like Season 1. I don't know, episode 4 or something.
Oh, you're like halfway.
Is it 8?
I think it's 10.
It's 10? It's 8 or 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 or 4 episodes in.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it. I was watching it when my family was out of town.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason I didn't get back into it. It wasn't because
It's been long enough that I'm like, I might rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only about
You need to get back into it
know,
because so you never saw the end of Season 1.
No, I never saw the end. No.
Bro.
I know. I have to see it.
On top of, did you see the Adam Eve special they did?
Yeah.
That was great. Absolute great.
Yeah, there's like another. There's like an 11th episode that came out this February.
It was a couple
So Season 2 hasn't dropped yet?
No.
Okay, so you watched the first 3. Did you watch them with the Real Rejects?
No, they're not out officially yet. But like the show's gonna come back. Yeah, show's gonna come back real soon. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, great. So this. I mean, that's for people who didn't know or did know. I was working at Skybound when Invincible was on, and we actually, the reason I made that joke, the Schmodown thing, is that the building that we were shooting Schmodown, like all the Invincible offices,
right there,
all floor 2. Yeah. Where we did the spectacular, the last spectacular.
Oh,
yeah.
Above us, they were actively making too.
We were working out of like 2 different buildings for that last season, so I was just like, there was a second floor there. I literally was trying to think of the other studio.
Right. The one that we closed out on.
Gotcha.
But either way, that's great that they've got.
It drops
3
soon.
People are excited about it, and you've seen the 3. They're good so far.
Yeah, they're incredible, and it's really smart how they bring it back, and it's also really, really fun time. The first season does a really good job playing with the timeline of the comics. The second season comeback does as well.
Okay, you told me about as you were walking in. I guess again, this will be about a day old at this point, but Gen V season.
Yeah, Gen V officially got a season 2 right as I walked in. Gen V, I'm loving. I'm up to 6.
6?
I think 6. It's so good. Like the show is just so smart and inventive, and it plays the boys' lore. I actually rewatched the boys' pilot last night because of how much I'm enjoying Gen V, and I was curious about starting pilot age boys and all the lore, how much more violent and how much more like intense and all those things. And they're really, really incredible parallel shows. Because even the cinematography in Gen V, there's some little nods I didn't catch from the pilot of The Boys, the way they start the world out. Like it's so clever, man.
I don't know why.
I just keep forgetting.
Yeah, it's really what it is. Because but also, and I don't remember who Kalinowski, I think, and I were talking about.
It's the same day as Loki, which I think is hard.
But I've seen the first 4 already. So for Loki, what I do is stupid. I'll wind up like last week when I could have been watching that. I watched The Lost Boys.
Oh, it's not stupid ever.
I know, but I watched. On the plane, I watched Willy Wonka, the first one. I watched, and Grandpa Joe is awful.
Just the worst.
He's the worst.
He
sucks. He tries to tell. Did you?
Y'all just getting on this train?
No. But like, oh, that's up.
Re-upping.
The other one, Dazed and Confused. I wound up watching. Watch Beetlejuice.
It's because we have to watch stuff for work. Sometimes it's nice to just throw on A Knight's Tale.
Stuff.
But I'll also tell you why. It's one of those things that like I know it's something that Amazon is trying to build out now. Like they have been obviously for the last like call it a decade or so, but like it hasn't been their main focus. You know what I'm saying? I think in the same way with like Apple TV, it's like they're putting out some bangers. Like Shrinking was amazing,
right?
But like it's not their main focus.
Yeah,
and so I sometimes completely forget that Amazon is doing stuff.
Yeah.
See, I'm the opposite with like Netflix has been such a disappointment and they're upping their prices again. And Disney Plus has been such a disappointment and they're upping their prices again that I'm kind of like that underdog thing where I'm like, well, screw the empire.
I get it, but I literally do not even remember to watch things on Amazon.
No, that's what I'm saying. I deleted my Netflix app, so I'm more likely to go.
I might cancel my Netflix account.
I'm canceling my Netflix.
I think I'll just bring it back for like Stranger Things.
Yeah. I'm gonna cycle in and out like I did with other streamers.
My wife loves Netflix, but I just
there's nothing on it. It's just like
she finds a lot of stuff.
No.
Stuff.
There's a lot. They're just what it is right now is they are pushed so hard on that reality side,
which I don't mess with.
Well, no, I get that. So, like for example, my girlfriend watches Selling Sunset. They put something out with that every couple of months, like the Love Is Blind stuff.
I just
watch.
So I think it's a great thing for some households.
I
think my 6-year-old would probably start breaking kneecaps if I did.
She will.
Ninjago.
Oh yeah, you're out, man,
bro. Yeah, that's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. Anyway, so
good luck with your next pizza review, too.
For real. Let's get into the last topic, and I do want to talk about this Matthew Vaughn thing because it's got Superman, and I want to talk about it. Matthew Vaughn, we talked about this yesterday, but I said I was going to wait about talking about the Superman thing, so I want to talk to the guys about it. All right, I said I wanted to wait for the guys before we get into yesterday. We talked about some of the Vaughn stuff, but I didn't want to talk about the Superman thing. So he did talk to our buddy, Josh Horowitz, about Superman, and he said, not only about DC, he was talking about DC, and he said he's reached out to him and Gunn and Peter Safran. They've been talking, never say never. At the moment, he's enjoying creating his own things. The franchise is in the best hands, so let's see what happens. Because he was rumored for the Authority, and he talked about Superman. He said, and this is what Comic Book Movie said: it's not as if Vaughn would reveal which movies or TV shows they've discussed, but he did confirm past reports that he and comic book writer Mark Millar approached Warner Brothers to pitch a Superman trilogy before Zack Snyder made Man of Steel. He says, Mark and I sat down and plotted out a 3-film trilogy, pitched it to Warner Brothers before Man of Steel. We pitched how to do a trilogy of Superman movies, and Warner said they weren't interested, and that's as far as they went. He said, I would have done a modern version of Donner. Our big idea was that Krypton didn't blow up. It does eventually. The dad was right, but he got his timing wrong. Vaughn added, when Superman has grown up, suddenly there's this mass exodus and all hell breaks loose, and that was our main idea. It's a bold take on the Man of Tomorrow, and one which suggests that Vaughn would be looking to also shake things up with the Authority. However, some fans are already convincing themselves that he must be on the DC payroll after the writer and director praised The Flash in a separate interview with Screen Rant. He said, what really freaked me out was that I really enjoyed The Flash. I thought it was a really good film, and it died at the box office, right? I'm like, wait, this is a good movie. What happened? And I don't know whether that was the superhero fatigue or you've just seen it done. So even now that we've made it well, there was some really, really complicated, hard, and quite special unique filming in that film, which I don't think Muschietti got enough credit for what he did. Vaughn would go on to elaborate and say, I think there's been so many bad superhero movies as well as like when the Western guy, you got so many that you get bored of the genre because not because the genre is bad, but because the films are bad. I was oddly enough, sadly, when Batman and Robin came out and it was terrible. I was a big Batman fan and we were like, that's when superheroes stopped and then they came back. I'll be intrigued to see how the Marvels does. I think great point on Vaughn, but let's start with you, Coy, on Superman.
Personally, and I love Matthew Vaughn. I'm a very outspoken Matthew Vaughn fan. I think he is I think he directed the best X-Men team movie. I do think a Superman that stays on Krypton is undermining the importance of Superman.
That's not what he said.
No, he stays on Krypton for a time until he's an adult, and then there's a mass exodus. Did I miss a thing?
His dad sends him, but his dad was wrong about when it blew up. So Superman's already on Earth.
And then all of a sudden, all these Kryptonians show up because the
I'm
planet
cooler
blows.
with that. I misinterpreted the statement. Thank you for correcting, Matthew Vaughn. You're back in my good graces. No.
See, that's how conversations should go.
True.
If you like, no, it was this. Oh, my bad. All right, cool.
I just verbed the wrong noun, and now it makes more sense. And now here we are.
I still, though, the funny thing is, though, I will kind of copy what you were saying, except understand what he said.
Smart. Oh.
And when I
Media literacy. He's got it. I don't.
What I start with is that I love Matthew Vaughn. I think he's great. I don't love the idea of Krypton not blowing up because it's
so formative.
It's what it is.
It's
like,
less bad of a change than mine, but it's still not Superman. Right. And there are things you can change. There are archetypal characters, but that seems fundamental.
Well, again, living in a world, we live in a society where apparently there are multiverses. Sure. I don't have a problem with the idea of, because think about the different type of trauma that would be.
Yeah.
If like, you get sent off as a kid because your parents are concerned, like, everyone's going to die. This is my only way to save my child. For him to only find out his dad was wrong.
And he's been living for...
And he's been alive.
Right. It's an interesting
different
take.
Trauma.
Like, it's a different trauma.
I just think that it's tricky with Superman because they haven't gotten him right in so long. It's just that character.
If that's the argument, I'll give you that. It's like we haven't had the cookie cutter... Boy Scout just follow this main story and tell something within that realm, that sandbox. If that's the argument, then I'll give you that.
Like
but
with DC starting with him, it's so important to get the foundation right. That's the only reason Superman I think is so vital.
I love how Vaughn's given a lot of stories.
The Western parallel's genius.
That's very true.
People have said that before.
No, but it's rare a filmmaker comes out and goes, "Hey, we're looking at the data the same way you fans are. We're concerned about making these." I think he's one of the first filmmakers I've seen so publicly be like, "I'm worried how the next thing does because I'm attached to some of these."
Well, because I understand what he's saying though, with because I all three of us thought The Flash was fine. I think that I liked The Flash. I liked that movie.
I had fun.
The beginning is bad with the CGI is bad. It's really bad, but not enough to where I think that movie, if it comes out 5 years ago, does significantly better. I think significantly better. It's just. There's so much that does. I think he's right. It's just Aquaman. I want to see how that does, which is interesting too. Where he said he didn't say, "Let's see how." I'll be looking at what Marvel's.
He's smart because he's working at DC.
He's working at DC for sure, and he knows. I'm looking to see what the Marvels are going to do. I don't think the Marvels are going to do well. I don't think Aquaman's going to do well. And by well, I mean maybe make profit.
I'm very curious about the analysts that go like, well, these $2 billion first movies, their sequels dropped 80%. I think we're going to see two of the biggest drop-offs between first to sequel in history.
Yeah, I don't know. So Deadpool is going to be the next big superhero movie. That's the next big one.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm really curious how Thunderbolts gets moved because I don't think it's as big as Marvel wants it to be.
You've got to move that movie.
But at the same time, I don't think they've been able to film anything because you've also got the issue of like, look at the cast. The Thunderbolts cast is not only stacked, but now that we've had this, how long has the strike been? 100 days for actors?
Close to 100.
So we're approaching 100 days. I think by the time we aired, it's like 98. That's all everyone that had triple stacked schedules for the next 5 years. Like if you're,
it's about to get ugly.
Yeah. If you're say David Harbour, you've got to film Stranger Things and Thunderbolts at the same time.
Right.
And in one of them, you're a skinny guy with no hair. And in the other one, you're an overweight guy with a beard and long hair.
Right.
How are you going to both get, there are things like that. The fundamental issues I don't think people are addressing. They're going to do prosthetics for the weight. And they're going to
rewrite them.
But that's what scares me is like how much, and with the rewriting that happened because the pandemic is what got Marvel in this mess. Because Marvel had a plan. Now it's got to adjust its plan a third time. It had to adjust once for the pandemic, once for the fallout from its fall from grace. Now it's adjusting for the strike. That 10-year plan is gone. And that's why I think it's like, start over.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not really a religious dude, but what is that? Is the old saying is like you make a plan and God laughs or something like that, and that's essentially what has happened. And
Except
I think
it's the AMPTP, they laugh.
Well, they laughed at themselves.
They're a malevolent God.
All I'm saying is that you have a situation where I think what I have complained about with Marvel and with DC, stop giving me your 10-year plan.
Yeah. Don't announce anything.
I understand that the film industry is a business, but when you're dealing with something, especially that is art, and the business pays for itself via the art being good, stop telling me about what you're going to do in that. Focus right now. What am I getting in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah.
I want to know that.
Well,
and let's make that happen.
In that book, they tried to just pass that off on Disney, where they said that Chapek was or Disney and Chapek was responsible and pushed both Kathleen Kennedy and Marvel to announce projects like prematurely, right? And I said, I got to call out a smelly fart, because that's, to me, Kathleen Kennedy, that was in 2021 was when that happened, right? What about Colin Trevorrow? What about the Benioff and Weiss? What about all and
Taika? What? Who hasn't been attached?
Now, right now the thing is, and as far as Marvel goes, Marvel was extremely lucky where they did those big announcements at the panels back in Hollywood that one time, and not all of those came to fruition. The one I forget there was one movie that was scrapped.
Inhumans was supposed to be
That's
a
what it
movie.
was. Inhumans, and so that happened. But they were in such the glory years that people were like, it's okay.
It's also one. That's the problem, is that when we got to the end of Endgame and we got to that Comic-Con, okay, what's next?
Right.
Cool. Black Widow and WandaVision and Ant-Man and Guardians and Ant-Man and Kang might be around and Blade and so the problem was, it is one thing when, like, again, we get into phase 2 and it's like, hey guys, here's what's coming. We're gonna close out the Iron Man trilogy. Cap's getting another movie. We'll get another Thor movie, and then Avengers. You're literally telling me what's going to happen essentially for the next 4 years. They decided to give us a 7 to 10 year slate, and that's too much.
I think another huge issue on top of that. That's A. I think B on top of that is the fan entitlement. So that's the bad side on the suits. The bad side on the fans is every time there's a D23 or Comic-Con and they give us all that, then they're still like, what about the X-Men and the Fantastic Four? So they feel pressured to give more things as like a spoonful of sugar.
No, focus. And I agree with you. I'm saying that's not the answer.
But that's the issue. Is I think they let the pressure leak more.
Yeah.
So I think it's not as clean as Chapek. I think it's not as clean as blaming any one person. I think fans going, why aren't we getting 10 years? And then them giving 10 years, which they shouldn't do. And then now when things fall apart, it's every problem at once. And that's, I think the next Marvel book is going to be fascinating.
You know what it feels like, bro? It's like you brought your girl flowers one time and she loved it so much.
Every Thursday you got to have flowers.
No, not only that. You didn't just bring her the one bouquet of flowers which she enjoyed. All of a sudden, you show up with a whole truck of flowers that have filled the apartment, and she's like, "That's nice, but like, can you take the trash out?" Like,
right.
Well, I don't necessarily. I'm not a flowers person. I like pizza, and if you like pizza, then what you should do is today should be looking for the review with myself and Frank Janis. I'm going to put that out after this episode, but I want to thank the guys here today. This was a really good episode. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. We will have more once the strike is over, there's no doubt. But right now, with Loki and all these other stories that are coming out, and now that the writer's strike is over, by the way, I still think that we'll start getting a couple more stories that will pop in like the ones that we've been getting. But I'd like to thank my panel here today, starting with Winston A. Marshall. Winston, where can they find you?
Find me at the Swaggy Blurred on all the platforms. I do Game Time with Roca on Tuesdays, where we break down the previous week in sports. I'm obviously here every Thursday, and then my content on my socials. Come say what's up. Peace.
All right, Coy, where can they find you?
Hunt me down on social media at Coy Jandreau. And also, if you're looking forward to that Spider-Man game dropping now, my good buddy Yuri Lowenthal came on my show. We did a pilot for my new talk show. That's a great question over on Real Rejects. A full hour of Spider-Man talk with Yuri over on Real Rejects. I'm so stoked about it, and it's the first of many.
All right, well, there you go. And you can find me at Kristian Harloff. And once again, if you haven't been here, you're brand new, hit that button. We're almost there. And if any of you are able to, get one of our wonderful sponsors here today, whether it is KAJABI, Rocket Money, AG1, or Fume. They're all in the description of the video, and they're the pinned comments. So thanks to Coy, thanks to Winston, thanks to all of you. We'll see you on the flip side.